Oh my gosh, everybody. Are you going to love this hour? I just spent time interviewing my personal staff, if you call them that. They're my team of divine earthly souls who help with the awakened way. Wait till you hear the backstory, the rest of the story about how they came to be part of this team and what the awakened way has done for them. It's going to awaken in you the soul that is bursting to share your love with the world. Enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody. I am so excited about this show. I don't know whose idea it was, somebody on my team, but this show is all about my team, my earthly team. I have the most amazing helpers in the spirit world, but the spirit world has gifted me with amazing physical helpers. You know most of them by now. If you've been following my work, I believe you have seen them on my monthly webinars and other places, but this hour is going to be dedicated to meeting my team, but mostly so that it's meaningful to you. We're going to find out how they came to the awakened way work, why, and how it's changed their life, so that you get ideas of why you might also want to live the awakened way. All right, so now let's bring everybody on camera, but I have to tell you, it's not quite everybody. We'll talk about that in a moment, but here they come. Hey guys.
Hi. Hello.
I'm going to go around in the order in which I can see everybody. Okay, we have Stephanie Fennick. She is the newest member of our team. We brought her on to help with publicity of my new Hay House book, The Awakened Way. Strangely enough, with that title, making the shift to a divinely guided life. And we'll talk all about how Stephanie came to the team, but she is now doing so much more than just book publicity. We'll talk about that too. We have Valerie Quitniak, who is our beautiful email assistant. I get so many more emails than I can handle, and she reads them and decides which ones I absolutely have to see, but which ones she can answer from her beautiful heart. She's a spiritual counselor in her own right, spiritual director, and all of the people on my team share this one mind. We are of like mind. We think alike. We get these concepts that I share. So I'm just so blessed to have Valerie doing that, as well as any newsletters that we send out. Then going around clockwise, we have Lynette Setscorn, who many of you know for her joyous, infectious laugh. She came on originally as the scheduler for my readings. I don't have the time to do too many readings now, so we are really taking up her time as executive producer of this podcast. And then just about any other task that I just don't have time for, and I know she's perfect for, so she just does so much in that regard. And then we have Bev Garlick, our team director, master of all trades, master of them, not jack of all trades, master of none, master of everything. She keeps her thumb on everything. She remembers to do things that I forget we had to do. Bev does so many things I can't even describe what she does, but she keeps this whole operation running, and we're grateful to her. I have to tell you all that it's so funny when Lynette has accompanied me to a few conferences when Bev wasn't there, and people go up to Lynette and they say, "Are you Bev?" Eager Bev, because everybody knows about Bev because she's been with me the longest. So with that introduction and knowing we'll find out so much more about each of these beautiful souls, and I hope I didn't miss any of your tasks that you helped me with. We all kind of pitch in as needed with everything. Bev, why don't you tell everybody how you came to find me and how we ended up with you as my first member of the Suzanne Giesemann team?
Okay, I found you probably the same way thousands of people have found you. When I moved to the villages, a new friend asked me if I had ever heard of Suzanne Giesemann, and I said no. And she said, "Oh, she does a wonderful workshop. Would you like to go with me?" And I said, "Sure." We had shared with each other a little bit about our spiritual path, so we knew we were sort of on the same chapter. And
you remember, have you looked up what year this was? Because I have a rough idea, but I don't know.
I think it was 2010.
Yeah, that's the year
10.
for the first time. So you've been there some.
Yeah.
pretty much the
Yeah.
beginning. Okay.
In fact, at this workshop, your mom staffed the sign-in table, Suzanne.
My mother, who even on her deathbed did not really buy into the whole concept of an afterlife, didn't understand my work at all, even after years of me doing it. Yeah.
But she loved being there. She loved being in the middle of it and greeting everyone, and so proud of you. And of course, I was blown away. It was an incredible workshop. So I read your books, just the early ones out then. And I remember at a book signing, I I mentioned you somehow. I knew that you were coming to the part of New York State that we lived in for the summer months, and I invited you if you would like to stop by. And of course, introverted, shy Bev later said, "Oh my, I can't believe I invited Suzanne Giesemann
You
to
know,
my
people
house."
say things like that, and it makes me laugh because I'm just me, you know, and I love getting an invitation to meet people. And if I can, I try to say yes. So I was thrilled to meet with you. You know, who was I? Who am I now? Just a person that loves to interact. So that was great.
But and we did meet, and there were God winks then. We didn't know much about each other at that point, and
You want to
as
explain
we were
to people what a God wink is?
oh, okay, that's sort of a a synchronicity, a little something comes together that you just don't expect at all, and it's fun. And as we were sitting on the patio, and I lived on the Lake Ontario, and we were looking at these stone bluffs, big bluffs across the lake. And Suzanne mentioned that a student from Rochester Institute of Technology was going to film a documentary, and one of the scenes were on those bluffs
Yeah, the
because they looked
documentary based.
Messages of Hope documentary.
Mhm.
And I said then, well, that must be one of my students at RIT, because I was the assistant dean then of College of Imaging Arts and Sciences, and lo and behold, it was one of our master students. And it just these little things came together that were fun. And along the way, I saw Suzanne getting busier and busier and busier. And again, not like my nature at all. I reached out to her in an email and said, "You're getting so busy. Would you like some help? I've done some event planning in my career, and would just like to volunteer to help." And again, my reaction after I hit send on the email was, "I don't believe I did that." I sent an email to Suzanne, and lo and behold, I got an email back the next morning that said, Ty and I were just sitting at the kitchen table discussing the fact that we're getting so busy. We really need some help. So it started out as just a few hours here and a few hours there.
But your
And
qualifications were so perfect. You had multiple jobs over the years, but that, it's just your work at RIT, being an administrator, a manager, and doing all of those tasks that were so perfect for what I needed was truly a godsend.
And that's the earth story, and the soul story. This goes back to one of the two readings that I've had from Suzanne, and one was a birthday gift in 2014, 10 years ago. And Sanaya came through. It was more like a channeling than a reading. I don't know if Suzanne remembers this. And so at the end, Sanaya asked me, did I have a question? And I said, I'm just curious, have Suzanne and I had other lives together? And Sanaya laughed and said, lifetime upon lifetime, you're of the same lineage. And they said, in this lifetime, it was decided that Suzanne would be the mouthpiece and you would be the arms and legs and helper. So there's the earth story and the soul plan. Yeah.
I'm just so grateful that our souls always find a way to bring us back together with those people that we're meant to enjoy this life together with. And I remember, Bev, I know you would bring it up eventually, but you then came when the Messages of Hope documentary came to be available. It's now on YouTube and Amazon Prime, but we were tasked with getting it out to the world, and it played on the big screen in Florida, and also we took it to film festivals around the country in person. But to plan all this, you and Chris Lavelle's mom, Ann Lavelle, Chris Lavelle being the director, came to our kitchen table, and we sat around the kitchen table planning this big thing that was so new to all of us. And do you remember what you said, Bev?
I don't remember.
Oh, gosh. Well, you've told many people this over the years. You said, we're going to look back someday.
Oh, yes, yes.
And remember, we were sitting around the kitchen table with paper and pencil, you know.
And we would laugh about that moment around the kitchen table. In fact, I think Ty took a picture of us then.
Yeah, we laugh to this day. We've expanded now. I was going to talk about who's missing from the team. Let me bring that up now before we move on to the next member. But we'll get back to the bigger question about how the Awakened Way has helped you, Bev. But who's missing from our team is our one male member of the team, Jayesh Mitha. And I would like to get Jayesh back on the show at some time to tell his whole story. But he came on the team when he volunteered to create the Awakened Way app, because the Awakened Way teaching brought him so much solace after the death of his brother. And he wanted to do that out of the goodness of his heart. And I couldn't let him do it for no money. I know that we had some kind of great exchange going on there, but I ultimately said, I need you on this team. And now he's a paid member of the team doing all of our IT stuff. He keeps the website running, the app running. Anytime we have any problem, Jayesh. But the reason he's not here is because he lives in South Africa, in Cape Town, where they have regular hours-long power outages daily. It's hard to imagine how millions of people live that way. And right now he must be in a power outage because we've been unable to reach him for hours, even though he knew this was on the calendar. He also said, I just can't guarantee that I'll be there. So we send Jayesh and everybody literally sitting in the dark right now, all of our love. So let's see, the next member was Lynette. Lynette, how did you come to this work? And yeah, how did you find me? How did you come to be working for me?
Well, I found you when 1 year to the date of my husband's death, my sister went to a book club meeting at some little church in Florida, and you were the guest speaker. And she called me on the way home and said, oh my God, you have got to look up this woman. You know, she's this, she's that. She's a Navy commander. She's a medium. Oh my God, look her up. So I did. I Googled, and then there was Messages of Hope documentary, which I watched on September 23rd, 2013, 1 year after Mike died. And so then I started following him on Facebook and other places. And, you know, I was so inspired. I read the book. I read the Sanaya messages. I happily found the Sanaya transcripts early on because those were an incredible comfort. Mike's death was really complicated, and my dad had died 3 months after in 2012. And I was just, I wanted off the planet. It was just terrible. But when I would read those old Sanaya channelings before bed at night, I would get through the night without the nightmares that have been awakening me since his stay in the hospital. And it just helped so much. So I do know how we connected. I said something on
interrupt. We need to make sure those transcripts are available to everybody. I'm sure they are on my website, but
they are. I'll put a link because they're powerful.
Okay. Good.
Okay. So I guess a year or so later, I had posted something on your Facebook page that that caused you to reach out to me with a very frightening message.
Only
Lynette,
to you.
Lynette, I need to talk to you. Please call me.
I need to talk to you. Please call me.
Yeah.
Scared to death because of your fear of mediums, right?
Terrified of mediums. Terrified. My father had gone to psychics and mediums back in the 60s in an effort to find my mother. And my idea of a medium is if you would enter the medium's lair and they would go, "Oh, I cannot read for you." And that meant that you were going to die. And I was so afraid of dying from my earliest memory. I just couldn't do it. So I thought, you're like, "Hey, Lynette, you got 3 days." And we've talked about this before, but I remember exactly where I was on 11th Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, putting gas in my gray Honda when I made that call to you. I worked up my courage to make that call. And you just wanted to, say something about something I'd written. So
to praise you because you had written the most eloquent essay on Facebook in response to something I posted. And it was so supportive of the spiritual view that I was putting out there that a lot of people were just fearful. Don't talk about those things. And no, you understood that it was all about love. And I thought, I need to meet this woman who can express who we really are in such beautiful terms. And instead you're like, God, she's going to tell me I'm going to die.
Well, there was that, in this world me, and then my soul doing that battle, because the in this world me at that point was still terrified. And when Bev talks about inviting to her home, I couldn't help but laugh, because as a result of that conversation we had, you invited me to have coffee with you when I was in Florida that summer, which was my first time to meet you in person. And I remember getting off the phone and calling my sister and saying, "I am not meeting with that woman alone. I will not do it. You have to go with me." So yeah, I'm the introvert on this team, or the most introverted.
No,
but I put up a good front. I put up a good front.
I have to interrupt. Somebody made a comment while watching the live podcast a few weeks ago that they felt that I wasn't appreciating Bev enough because Bev seemed a little quiet. And luckily we were able to set them straight. And I could not appreciate any of these team members more than I appreciate them. I am so grateful every day. And I hope that I show my appreciation to them each personally. It's just that I would say of everybody here, Bev is the most introverted. But it's not a negative. It's just a lovely thing. But all you have to do is watch a few of our Q&A sessions where YouTube, before we brought Stephanie in, Bev and Lynette are throwing questions at me, and you're just all over the place. And Bev is her nice, normal, dainty self. So,
well, what you're seeing is adult versus child, I think. So that's how we met. And how did I come to work for you? My friend, who again, you and Mike hooked me up with in 2015, Brenda Baker, who's now your mediumship guide. She had worked for you for a while, and then she was diagnosed with cancer and could not continue that.
That's right.
So she got cancer in 2017 in May. I stayed with her most of that year, but I was at home, and I'd been to a sound session at a place in Tulsa, and I was leaving, and you called me. I'm like, "Oh, it's Suzanne." By that time I wasn't, freaked out by you. We spent a lot of time together, and we were friends. So you said, "Lynette, would you know somebody who might want to do a little bit of work for me? Just a little bit, do some scheduling and that kind of thing." And I said, "Well, yes, me." And then you said, "I knew it was you, but I didn't want to put you on the spot."
Because you said, "Well, I might be interested."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I remember how petrified I was to sit down with you and Bev on Zoom and like a spreadsheet. I mean, I'm not a spreadsheet person. I'm, details. So I've learned a lot in this wonderful work, and being a part of this in any way, helping people who were as miserable and tortured as I was, is just, it makes my heart sing. It brings joy every day.
Yeah. And so I just want everybody to know that we tease Lynette. I can tease her because we have that kind of friendship where she knows that I love her to pieces, just like I love everybody on this team. Just so blessed. But when I'll say, "Yeah, Lynette has no left brain at all," because she's the one that said it first, but she really does have a left brain. But that's the kind of bantering that we can enjoy with each other. And I love that, because it's born of understanding that we've all been through our pain and come to this place, and we'll get to that. So thank you. Then the next on the team was beautiful Valerie. How'd you come to find my work and get to work, come to this place of working for me?
Well, in 2014, February of 2014, I visited a friend in Florida, and she had just gone to a talk by you at in St. Pete, and you did a Sanaya channeling, and she was just wowed by everything you said. So she told me, you have to check this woman out. She is the real thing. And my friend is very skeptical. So I knew that, okay, I'm going to check her out. So I went to your website and I signed up for a reading. At the time in 2014, I was 219 on your list. And I remember thinking, well, my father died when I was 6. It was tragic. And, I had just been carrying it around with me for, 50 or so years, more than 50 years. And I thought, how could it be possible that she could even contact him? It's been 50 years. But I put my name on your list anyway. So then I started, looking at your website every other day and just checking out your schedule. And lo, you were going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico on June 10th,
You
2014.
remember all these dates. That's a soul thing. This is like
Valerie knows every date of everything that's ever happened.
Well, so I went to the Unity Church in Albuquerque and I sat there. And it turns out I sat next to a woman who was in a neighboring town. And I listened to your talk. I was just in awe the whole time. There were a lot of things I could hardly grasp, but I felt pulled. I felt drawn. I felt so drawn to your message. So afterwards, I went to the back table, picked up one of your books, got in line so that you could sign it. I gave you the book to sign. You signed it. You gave it back to me. And when you gave it back to me, you went, you lost a male figure. And I said, yes, I did. And then there were people standing behind me, so I didn't want to hold everybody up. And I started walking away, and you said, he's with you, And then you said, email me. And so then I walked out. I was in the parking lot. The woman behind me was the woman I was sitting next to. And she stopped me in the parking lot and she said, I was the one she was supposed to say that to. And she had told me about her fiance that had passed 6 months earlier. There's more to that story, which is really incredible.
We'll hear it.
So I went home and emailed you. Long story short, we connected over the phone, and you said that definitely somebody was trying to get your attention. One of my loved ones was trying to get your attention. And if you had good reception, and so that was a Tuesday.
And I meant by that
So,
telephone reception because
yes, you were going to be in Flagstaff, and you said if I have good phone reception, I would like to put you at the top of my list. And of course, I was, I could hardly speak. So on Friday, June 13th, 2014, you gave me a reading. you brought my father through. And by the way, I've had a lot of readings since, and no one, even at your early years in 2014, no one has brought my dad through like you did.
That's
You brought my dad through in such a way that I was your worst sitter. and because imagine for 50 years just feeling like my dad is gone. I will never see him again. I will never be able to know him. Really, I was only 6. And during the reading, I got this feeling like, oh my God, this is my dad. And I couldn't speak. I could not speak.
That's why you say you were
And
my
you-
first sitter. I don't.
And you finally said, Valerie, you have to say something. And
This
so anyway, after that reading, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more. I wanted to be able to connect with my dad myself. And I remember, so 6 months later, Christmas Eve, I'm outside on a starry night with my 2 dogs, and I look up and I say, Merry Christmas, Dad. And then I say, oh, come on, give me a shooting star. And within 2 minutes, I got my shooting star. I would have never asked that. I would have never even thought of asking that had I not had that connection with you and had you not given me that reading. And just, it changed my life. And then I wanted to learn more and how to connect with the other side, which I wanted to learn more how to connect across the veil.
And we'll get to
And
that in part 2 of
yes,
this session here.
yes.
But I recall that unlike Bev and Lynette, I came to you, didn't I, asking for help?
Well, yes. So through Lynette, Raven suggested it to Lynette, and then Lynette called me. Lynette called me and said, how would you like to do some work for Suzanne? I think she might have said, would you like to answer some emails for Suzanne? And I think I probably thought about it for a couple seconds and said yes. I think I had some signs that morning that, there was going to be a collaboration of some sort. I think I read that somewhere. And anyway, so yes. And then I said yes. And
Here we go.
and I had known Brenda, and I'm always say Brenda really, she just connected everybody. She really connected everybody. So yes, that was the easiest yes I've ever said.
We sure did. Yes. Wow. Okay, so everybody listening, watching, are you getting an idea how all of this has been spirit driven, how it's been heart based, how it's come together beautifully? It's that old, if you're hitting a wall, it's not supposed to be. And there have been no walls with this team. It just flows. And I just wish every workplace were like this. And so Stephanie, the newest member of our team, how did you find out about my work and what brought you to work here?
Well, in 2016, my daughter had a hiking accident and was killed 5 days after her 22nd birthday.
And her birthday is today. Yes,
Yes, her birthday's today. Kate, yes.
And she's a twin.
She's a twin, yes. So I have one earth side, Madeline, and one spirit side, Katie. And so at that point, that those first 2 years, it's really heavy. It was very heavy for me. And one thing that I was doing was I could not get enough of listening to near-death experiences because that gave me hope. I mean, almost to the point where, oh, I wish I had my own. I wasn't going to, of course, cause anything, but it's and I'm like, I want that hope. I want that hope and that joy that these people have.
People
And
with near-death experiences, they almost all report the same kind of bliss-filled, love-filled experiences. They almost don't want to come back except for the family here. Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
a purpose.
So after about my 1000th, I honestly think it's in the high hundreds of near-death experience episodes I'd listened to on various podcasters. I thought, okay, I hit the wall. I thought, no, so now let me look for hope, for ways that I can find hope and know that this is really real, that Kate lives on. And so I found your work, and I know I was using keywords of hope and that kind of thing. So like you were talking about the Messages of Hope film that you did. It was so interesting to hear that about Bev and sitting around the table and launching at all the film festivals. So I found that probably in 2018. And then I'm an avid reader, so I started reading all your books, and I had met Janet No Havoc at another grief sort of weekend where mediums came, and
Janet Havoc being one of, well, actually my
Yeah.
original mentor. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. She was your original mentor, and she was pretty amazing, as you all are. And so I followed your work, listened to all the podcasts, see what's going on your website. And let's see, in late 2022, yes, in late 2022, well, I'm going to back up just a couple of years to let you know that we also then had another death in the family. Another transition. My stepson, Nick, combat veteran, and he had an accidental overdose. And so that took us very much by surprise because he was doing beautifully. And, we had that experience. So then we grieved together, each of us in our own way, my husband and I. And I shared all your information with him, and he really found hope in your work as well. So we decided we were going to go to your event, Personal Mediumship Plus, last year. So we had planned to go in February. We were all set. And then we had some family issues that we needed to stay back and take care of. And that was February in Savannah a year ago in 2023. And I do think that was divinely guided, that we did not go to that, because I would not have been ready for what came next. So then I moved the Personal Mediumship Plus. I signed up for your July, and I was the only one that could go.
In Reno.
Yes, July in Reno. And so it's if people haven't done this workshop, I highly recommend it. But it was a beautiful way to learn techniques to connect. And I did. And at the very end, Suzanne, I don't know if you remember, but you ended it with an automated writing session and a beautiful meditation. And so in my automated writing, I was talking with Katie, and she said, "Mom, you're going to love this new job." And I truly was transitioning from one consulting gig to another, but I was kind of bummed about it because I wanted to do something that helped people find hope in my work life. So I thought, oh, okay. So maybe I need to see this as one more step toward that. So thank you.
It's because I had forgotten you were getting a new corporate job, but clearly now in retrospect, Katie knew she was talking about a different job. Ooh, goosebumps.
She was. And within a couple minutes, just a couple minutes of me going, okay, well, thank you, Katie. I'm gonna be thankful about this next corporate gig.
Let me just focus on here. Your whole goal and your whole watching hundreds of NDEs and such was to know that Katie lived, to have hope. But here you are connecting with her and having a conversation with her. This is what is available for everybody.
Yes. And that's what I want to help spread, which is what this mission is. And so I felt all of a sudden, like as soon as I accepted that it was going to be this new consulting gig, all of a sudden I had this urgent, knowing. It wasn't Stephanie, you need to go. It wasn't somebody talking to me, but it was a knowing that said, go up to Suzanne and ask if she needs help. because just with my background in corporate and doing all these different things over the course of 33 years, I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way, I can help her. And I didn't want to do it. I literally was sweating. I almost wanted to throw up because I don't like to bother people. I know what you had to do. You just got off a full weekend of teaching, and I don't want to bug you about stuff like that. So thankfully, Ty was in the back with the dogs, and he was just talking. We were talking about our dogs, and it was calming my nerves. And okay, I'll do this. So the line was going down. You were graciously talking to everybody. And we talked about our common love of dachshunds and the fact that I also had a red dachshund named Rudy. And ironically, we called Rudy the Navy SEAL because he somehow he got on the other side of this creek that had swollen and become a river. It was a flash flood. And we were saying, where's Rudy? And we hear this high-powered yelp. And we were all like, no, don't cross. He crossed the river. And so from then on, he made it, and we called him the Navy SEAL. So if you want to talk about your Rudy for a minute and why that was,
my background, Navy officer, 20 years. My very first dog was Rudy, and Rudy crossed the Atlantic Ocean with us, and we called him Rudy the sailing wiener dog. So this is a God wink, and I know I'm paying attention to this woman because people do offer over the years to help me, and there are not always times when I need help, but you came at a time when we really wanted to get the Awaken Way book into people's awareness in a sacred way, not, no hype, none of this. And here you come with these perfect skills. And I thought, wow, what if she would be willing and able to just take on this project? Then we wouldn't lose focus of the other things. It was like this gift just dropped into our lap.
Oh, thank you. And a huge gift for me as well. And so Ty and the dogs helped calm my nerves a little bit. And okay, I can get in line now. And you had maybe one or two people. And then I just remember very nervously, probably looked like some crazy person. And my mouth was going like this, probably way too fast. And you kind of looked surprised at first, and you thought thoughtfully about it, and you said, send me an email, and send me an email. So off I went. You guys, got back on the road, and off I went, and I spent the next
one got through the Valerie screen.
Yes, I must have, right. I got through it. Thank you, Valerie. But I did the same thing. I sent it off. I don't usually do personal stuff and work things, but I'm like, no, this is a personal. It's about love. It's about getting this word out to people so they know they're not alone. And so I put some personal things in it. I put a picture of Rudy, and then I thought, what did you do, Stephanie? You are ridiculous. And then sure enough, Tuesday, after a Sunday night, then Tuesday, you just texted me and said, hey, could you talk in about a half hour? And so I got up and did the happy dance, and I said, I sure can. and the rest is history. So thank you.
You've run some meetings for me, and I have them on speaker on Zoom, and I get off and I look at Ty and I say, is she a gift or what? The way you run a meeting, and it's just boom, 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 you get it done. It just, wow. And everybody on this team coming from the heart is just stunning. I should not be surprised. I just hear my guides right now saying, you think this was accident? No.
Thank you.
Which is what living the Awakened Way is. I mean, just like the book subtitle, making the shift to a divinely guided life. And we end up with this beautiful heart-based team. So now this show is probably going to be more than an hour, but hopefully people are doing it. I sure am. Just the love that's gushing forth here is just, and the awe at how this dance is unfolding. It's just beautiful. So let's go back around, and Bev, I could do a whole show with each of you, and maybe I will at some time. I just thought of that 15 minutes before we went on the air, that we could really dive in, and we probably will. Yeah. Bev, just maybe summarize what your life was like before you started really embracing the awakened way that we live now, and how the teachings, and maybe specific teachings that might come to mind, have changed you. And everybody has the same questions for you. So, and we were just saying that you shouldn't do that on a panel. You should ask different questions, but that's what this whole program is about. So, Bev, if you'd go first.
Okay. How it's changed me. I have to say, ever since even a little girl, I think I've been a seeker. I didn't grow up in a religious family. My parents didn't go to church, but I tagged along with friends to Sunday school. I just had this desire to understand things. And in my 20s and 30s, I read all the inspirational books, the self-help books, just hungry to try and understand, and I guess looking for hope, that this wasn't all there was, because life has its ups and downs, and I had my dark nights of the soul like everybody else, and I wanted some hope that this wasn't all there was. But I always had a doubt. No one could prove it to me. And I grew up in small towns where there wasn't really a circle of people I could compare these books with and talk to. And I have to say, even that very first workshop that I went to with you, Suzanne, I walked out of there just elated, thinking, it is true. All this stuff I've hoped for all these years that it was true.
I may
Suzanne
interrupt.
has evidence.
If I could interrupt here, one thing, I don't know if you were going to get to it, but you were sitting at the breakfast table and your husband died right there on the spot beside you. So much of this work of a medium, of course, is showing people that loved ones who have passed are still here, and your parents had passed, but that was a very tragic event for you. So yeah, I interrupted you just as you were saying, in that workshop, you heard evidence that Dennis
Right.
and others are still with you.
Yeah, and at when Dennis did die, passed at age 51. Again, I had been reading for years and hoping for years, but and I had faith that he lived on, and it was, but I didn't have evidence. I didn't have proof. And when I met Suzanne, I went to that first workshop, and of course, everything since then, I just know beyond any shadow of a doubt that he's with me. Our loved ones live on. There is a whole lot more than this, and I have so many tools. I think the awakened way for me is that whole tool bag I have. It doesn't mean that life is going to be rosy every minute. I still have ups and downs. I still get COVID. Things happen in the earth realm, but I have tools to deal with it. And that's the big difference for me.
Give us one of your favorite tools that you just pull out of the tool bag.
Just the knowing and going to that place where I remember I'm a soul. I can be, well, how many times I say I'm Sanaya or Suzanne has said, go up to the balcony and look down at the stage, get the different perspective. And I tell Suzanne often, even the balcony's not high enough. I have to go up in the hot air balloon and look down and remind myself I'm playing a role. There's a much bigger perspective, higher perspective to look at things. And that tool alone has gotten me through a lot of the rough spots along the way.
Beautiful. That's that making the shift. That's even in the subtitle of the book. That's what's so crucial. And we forget to make the shift until we really make living the awakened way a part of our life. And that takes practice. Daily attention to that. So yay. Thank you, Beth. Beautiful. Lynette, same question.
Well, so I was brought up in a very religious environment, Missouri Synod Lutherans. And from my earliest memory, 4 or 5 years old, I remember being absolutely petrified of dying. It's only recently that I got to what that was. And I could see myself sitting in a pew in the front row, because we were all or near the front row, and being told that you must love God with all of your heart. And I could not find within me any shred of love for God because I didn't know. So I took it very literally. And I know this is just me. I'm not dogging religion, because my sisters sat, either side of me, and they didn't experience the harm turned gift that I did as a result of being in that church and hearing things the way that I did. But I was petrified of dying.
Because why were you petrified of dying? This is so key.
Because I was going to go to hell.
That's
at five, because my big failure then, again, that I knew what love felt like. I had a wonderful family. I had relatives that I loved, friends that I loved. I knew what that felt like, and I knew that I didn't have that for God. And so it was scary. So I would go to sleep every night, we'd say that scary prayer.
That's why you were afraid when I first reached out and said, I want to talk to you. You were afraid I was going to tell you were going to die. And that meant to you, I'm going
hell.
to.
Oh, I knew I was going to hell. I mean, literally until probably I started getting a suspicion when I read near-death stories in the 90s. I hoped that maybe I would be one of the ones that was led to the light, not the ones that have the scary experiences, which, as it turns out, are just their own human stuff overflowing. But that's, gosh, I could go on and on about fear. Anyway, my first experience of unconditional love, my mother, she vanished when I was 12 years old. And I went from being like literally, the best little girl, such a good little girl, it was ridiculous, to being a complete and total mess. I went off the rails big time. My self-destructive behavior was out of control. I was trying to fill up the emptiness that the loss of what was for me a primary relationship in my life that created. And it was just, it was unbearable. Happily, I also quit the church, but that didn't take away the fear. At that point, it was so deeply a part of me that, I didn't know how to excise. I just assumed that this is how it is. I'm going to be petrified until the day I die, and then I'm going to go to hell, and that's it. That's it. And Christianity, it's one and done. It's not like you even get a second chance like the Buddhists do. But in 1982, I found a 12-step program. And I just real quickly, I will say that, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what 12-step programs are about. But there's a secret in it too, and it's in the 12th step, and it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. And that was what it took for me. I started looking at the possibility that God was not a scary thing, didn't even address the hell issue, but possibly it was a loving God who didn't only judge me for my failures. And so I got to choose a conception of God that worked for me. I began doing prayer and meditation. I took those steps because they were numbered, and that was easy. You say, you need to have a spiritual awakening. Well, how do you do that? How do you actually do that? Fortunately, the Awakened Way, the new handbook, tells you exactly how to do that. But it wasn't around in 1982, and I wish it had been. Anyway, life got better. I did a lot of step work. I was probably as happy as I had ever been when I met Mike, who was my second experience of unconditional love. And he and I had a deeply spiritual life together. We did 12-step, we sponsored, we did all that stuff. And it was magical. It was, when I said this to Valerie a few months after Brenda died, that Mike was my home. He was my home with a capital H, just like my mother was. And that home is what I have found as a result of the Awakened Way. So that's your gift to me, Suzanne, as you've led me to this understanding that home is in me. It's already in me. The reason it felt so good to find it, in others, is that I didn't know it was in me, but there was something. It's like when you're trying to fit a lid on a bottle that just won't go, and it's like stuck, and it's just can't make it fit. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, that's what you gave me, is that it was like the melding together of everything that I knew, everything that I experienced, 30, 40 years of trying to meditate and find peace with this terrible fear that I had. It all came together. So, I don't even have enough words to express my gratitude.
It's just so clear to me that I need to do a whole episode with each one of these beautiful souls here, because we really can flesh out the lessons learned from each of your stories, because it's clearly everybody has a story, and I could bring everybody in the listening audience in and tell their stories, but That's what we'll do, because so this is like a teaser for future episodes. But yet each one of them is sharing these beautiful pearls of wisdom. And I know that people are benefiting from each of your stories. And so I apologize that everybody's only getting a few minutes right now, but we'll get more.
And I have gone on and on, but I just want to say one more thing. I have been entirely, and I mean entirely, relieved of that fear of dying that plagued me from my earliest memories as a child. I've even tested it out 3 times in the last 4 years or so, where I've
Wait. You're speaking so fast to get all these beautiful words in that people might not have heard what you said. You are completely relieved of the fear of death.
completely. And I've had 3 experiences in the last several years where it was pretty clear that I was dying. And it was just like interested observation. Oh, well, this is what drowning looks like. Oh my gosh, it looks like a heart attack. Isn't this interesting? I mean, I can't even express my joy over what that's like to just, I mean, it is it's just leaving one room and going into the next, and your stories, the things that you've taught us over the years, our own experiences, and making that connection. It's just everything.
That's the gift. Yeah.
I'm done.
Thank you. Well, for now, you're not done. Valerie, how has the Awakened Way helped you? The nutshell version before we get you back for a full episode.
Well, geez, I grew up Catholic and worked for the Catholic Church for many years, became a spiritual director, and I had a relationship with God, but it was based on how good I was, how perfect I was, if I could be perfect enough or good enough, or worthy enough. And so I went through my life just trying to be as good as I possibly could in every situation, which took away my authenticity. It was right before I got connected with the Awakened Way that I even started thinking about Jesus. Catholicism, it's a big deal. Jesus died for your sins. And you have to be worthy and, work your way up to heaven. And one day I got to thinking, what if Jesus came to show us who we are? And that was percolating, simmering within me when I came upon the Awakened Way. And the Awakened Way just brought that out, and it made sense, and it felt like a knowing. That was a knowing that had always been there, but there were a lot of things that had covered it up, and the Awakened Way just made that truth. It made it, yes, this is it. This is true. It just and it was about love, an unconditional love for myself, for everything around me, which gave me an acceptance of myself and everything I had been through. And it actually helped me look at others that way as well. It totally shifted me into a real, authentic relationship with spirit and all that is. It was, and I think I had always had a contemplative life, a contemplative way of praying or being with spirit. I had always had that, even as a child. But meditation, as I learned a new form of meditation, which, you've always asked us to begin with gratitude. Well, gratitude, I had been practicing that for many, many years, for 35 years now. And so that, again, it was like you weren't giving me anything I didn't knowing here. My mind was filled with boxes. You need to do this in order to be loved by God. You need to be perfect. That was up here, what I had learned up here. But there was a knowing that was way deeper. And whenever
that's part of the shift.
yes,
Shifting from the head to
yes,
from thinking.
yes. And what did they say? I heard this a long time ago. The journey from the head to the heart can be one of the longest journeys, but can be one of the most rewarding journeys.
Yeah.
Because it was just, there was a knowing, I was drawn to it. So I think it's that love. And like I said, the meditation has made such a huge difference in my life. It's just opened everything up and
we're going to get
changed the way I looked at things.
Valerie, because I want to talk about your journey with cancer and remission and healing. And we definitely want to talk about where I made a note here, that woman at the workshop where she said, no, that was for me, but it truly was for you. And clearly there's a story there. So we'll get you back on to talk about that. But I love what you've shared. And clearly there's so much more to share, but we're running out of time here. So I think what I took most out of what you just said is that this awakened way has allowed you to be your authentic self. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And Stephanie, proverbially not last but not least.
Yeah. And I love what you said, Valerie. I can really key off of that authenticity, because I also grew up Catholic, and you had to be good in order to deserve God's love. And, and that does, that kind of teaching and notion, I feel like does make you tend to be inauthentic. You're trying to overdo it, be overly good, overly accommodating. I've got to please everybody, and it becomes inauthentic experiences with others when we're here to authentically talk and receive each other and love each other. And Lynette, I can also understand that your fear. When I was 6, I had a similar experience. My parents were always listening to these tapes about, hellfire basically, and fear. And I developed this OCD fear of death and of going to hell and all of that. And what the Awakened Way has brought me is, and really emphasize, Suzanne, is the love. This is about love. It's about letting down those boundaries and walls, being on authentic relationships with people.
May I interrupt?
Yeah, please.
And that's just the surface, because why we're all discovering this love is because when we make that shift from head to heart, we discover we're not only human, we're souls. And at the basic level, we are all connected. That's why we authentically already love each other. And it's all this stuff and our stories and our drama that gets in the way, and the belief systems, I call it your BS, that you grow up learning. We've got to clear that out. And when we do, as we live this consciously connected, divinely guided life, that's when we feel and can express the love. So yes, thank you for that point.
That's it. That's truly it. That's how it has impacted my life, is to dive into that authenticity, that love, and keep in using the tips and the techniques to keep that connection and keep that association with who we really are and the love that we are for each other. So
yeah. And the book, The Awakened Way, I counted it the other day, 24 different tools and techniques, so that we keep it in the forefront, so that we have the personal experience that I'm not only human, I am a soul. Stephanie, you're the newest member of the team, and I know that some of these techniques are new to you, and it's so exciting to see you blossoming even more with us. I share with her, hey, I just got this interview and booked, and I just had this opportunity to write a chapter for this person's book. And Stephanie writes back and she says, I'm literally dancing with joy around my room. My dogs are looking at me like, what's up with you, Mom? And I just love that your joy in this work is so authentic. It's just,
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing what happens as you use each of the tools yourself moving forward. I know that the other girls here have used all of those tools because I've been teaching them for a long time. I was just interviewed by Anita Morjani yesterday for You Can Heal Your Life Radio with Hay House. And she asked me how much research I had to do for the book. And I literally blanked out and I said, no research. This is all from teaching from the guides, from years of learning. So that's not research where you go in and look. That's just our own seeking over the years that all of us do. We go down all these rabbit holes, but then the personal experience of all of this. And so I hope that in this program today, all of you watching can see that we all are in a little bit of different paths, but we're all seeking something. And we're seeking this connection that this team here embodies. We're seeking the awareness that we are worthy, that we are loved because we are love. And as we come to know that and live that way, life flows in these beautiful, wondrous ways, such as the stories you've heard here today. So I appreciate my team here, and I wish Jayesh had been with us, for coming on and sharing your time and your stories with all of us that everybody can relate to. Can't wait to get you all back individually so we can dive in even more. And we just appreciate every one of you in our Awakened Way community. If you wondered why you were drawn to these videos, it's in the podcast. It's because this community is organically and naturally arising by the magnetic attraction of love. And it's a beautiful thing. I love my team. I love all of you. And I love all of you in this community. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.